Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we got ourselves a track from an act named NepCali titled MAHAKALI, and if we switch over to here, apparently the members of this act are Apan Karki, who does vocals, lyrics, composition, as well as Sup Shredders on guitars and composition, and then we also have Matt Kilgore, who's the bassist, and Seth Hernandez, who is the drummer. So we're going to listen through this track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Looking forward to an interesting first impression. Ethnic metal, let's go. What do we got? God of Time and Death. The layering is articulate. Like a money hornet or something like that. Great use of vocal fry there. Interesting change of time signature and flow here. Got such a visceral tone to it. Kangaroo. I mean, it's intrinsically fascinating. There's just such a thick fuzz to that guitar tone as well. What is an absolutely phenomenal drum section there. A lot of people involved in the project. Very professional. I'm just not entirely sure what to make of the video, but we're going to go to the end of this. We are going to have a think about this track, and then we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion, my review of this track from an act named NepCali, titled MAHAKALI. Now, apparently they are an ethnic metal band born in Long Beach, California in 2015, founded by a group of Nepali immigrants with a mission to fuse the fury of metal with the spirit of the Himalayas. So already that's just a really interesting premise. They include traditional Nepali instruments alongside the hard-hitting guitars and heavy drums. So basically trying to have more sort of traditional elements as well as the kind of like heavier ones as well. I think this is the first time doing these reviews where I've heard a specific combination like this, and for that I genuinely commend them. So if I was to sort of have a go at what I think this track is about, I kind of see the interplay between the man and the woman, and talking about confessions and everything like that, and like the earlier verse parts, as well as a lot of it not being in a language that I can understand. And that, by the way, you know, what goes without saying, that's completely fine. I think that as long as you can kind of give enough of a hint for the listener, whether through the video or through the audio, what the track's about, it can communicate well, transcend the boundaries there. But it seems to me it's like it's about someone getting affected by that hornet buzzing them, and maybe the hornet was like materialism or something like that, and then the person gets infected by it, but then they start kind of growing and doing sort of terrible things when they get into a position of power, and maybe the woman that comes, like the woman is put in a cage and then they manage to escape somehow, and then they do try and kind of like balance things again, but then it's like they leave them and the person just gets up and continues to try and sort of screw around and do more, and effectively it gets to the point where they get executed because they've had too many times to sort of like repent. That's my kind of interpretation of it. It might be completely off, but hopefully I'm not too far off. In terms of things I appreciate about this, because in these sections I usually talk about 2 to 3 things I appreciate, plus any sort of constructive critique. I want to first of all sort of like specify this is an amazing song. It's a very unique experience. It's not just the styles of music that we've fused together, it's the overall kind of like thing, if that makes sense. It's that there's a lot of different things that interplay and connect in a way that's really desirable within a first impression especially. And I think there's enough elements within this that people will at least be curious, but also appreciate things across a wide variety of genre preferences. I think one of the things that works for it though is the vocals, like not just the fact that we have really solid vocal technique, whether it is the cleaner parts at the start, the chants or whispering, you know, the head and chest voice being adhered to, the dynamic range, the control of both the pitch as well as the intensity, like kind of like balancing out the sort of the mild little crescendos that we have on certain notes there, the rises, etc. But also when the vocal fry comes in, the growls there's just so many different interesting voicings, and it's also the sound design on the sides of the stereo field, like the whispers and everything like that with everything else going on. It's just phenomenal. It's wonderfully fleshed out, and in a 6-minute 15 track like this, you need to make sure that there is enough stuff going on throughout it in order to be able to justify the length of time that it's taking up. And there was absolutely nothing to justify here. It was just really well affected. I feel like the story was told or implied well. I think in addition to that, it was also the wide variety of different instrumental layers and how they integrate and are presented throughout the piece. There are lots of different, fascinating, clean, plucked instruments there, with interesting there was even some DI'd kind of guitar parts there. There was some distorted and very fuzzy guitars as well, and other elements there. So many different guitar tones that are notched around the stereo field, as well as in the frequency spectrum. And they are a wonderful atmospheric device that I think both encapsulates the mood with the major and minor scales, as well as diatonics, as well as some interesting melodic or harmonic minors there and occasional chromatics, I suppose, or Phrygians. But it's just fantastic how we explore these different arpeggiated components or sort of strum parts, or we even just have some power chords that are chugged and galloped occasionally there. And we're very comfortable with the different time signatures or tempo flows as well. It's just a great adventure, a journey we go on, practically being progressive. But we also know when to sort of step away and have less rather than more there. Sometimes the power chords are just held there, and there's enough movement in other areas of the composition that'll be justified that and make it meaningful. I think the drums as well, when they come in, they're not there all the time, but when they are, they're impactful. There's great use of dynamic range there. It's a very tight performance across the kit, from the double kicks, the snares, the cymbals, as well as the occasional tom fills. I think there's parts where the toms are just by themselves, keeping a sense of groove and pace within it. Again, fantastic to have a groove or rhythm kept on not just the cymbals. To be able to kind of explore other parts of the kit and move those forward as well is really good. But there's like almost a sort of a doom metalish kind of feel to it when we really do sort of slow down and the music kind of staggers along. And I want to sort of point out that it's not just that we sort of layer these things really effectively and create a really compelling experience. It's also that it's typically very appropriate for what we're seeing within the video as an audiovisual experience. There you kind of hear the music lumbering around as the person's on their death knell. It's phenomenal stuff. It's cinematic, and I appreciate the attention to detail there. I think it's well handled. The bass is kind of quiet within this, but I still nonetheless appreciate and hear that. I think it's just balanced for a kind of more of a kind of an airy kind of feel to it. It's still heavy when it needs to be, but I think we do, maybe even it's just not sort of only staying on those root notes. We explore up the octave a little bit for a bit of a you know, like we understand that we don't just have to play the zeros all the time. And then there's kind of bells, either cloud drums or bells, those little kind of boom, those kind of instruments that resonate within it, almost like a meditative experience there. Potentially one of those Nepali instruments there. It's just fantastic, as well as other parts. And the chanting is fantastic, is a great sort of like design device for the sides there. It's a very explorative experience there, again, and I just think it's also the way the song is structured, but with the way the instruments are integrated and layered within it, as well as the various vocal takes. I also want to give a final shout out to the actual studio production. I think that's the final thing I'll discuss with this piece. I think that it's commercial grade. There's an interesting balancing of the different vocal takes, both in the mains and the sides of the stereo field, in regards to the different various guitar tones there, the drums, the bass, the bells, the kind of, and all those kind of things, and they never feel superfluous. They never feel too much or too little there. There's a meaning behind when things are quieter or more kind of like vulnerable, or when things kind of get up and they're kind of in your face a bit. It's always very impactful and purposeful. And if you had made clinical or foundational errors within the studio side of things, it would have ruined the experience here. It's just simply we have a band who knows what they're doing, and they communicate well, and their music is well represented because of the fact there is sufficient dynamic range for it to seem like it's full of life. Despite, you know, and we have, it's nice and loud with that pumping, so the bus compression and limiting is handled, and the vocals aren't overproduced either. They are just capable of expressing themselves in a way that is both professional and appropriate. So ultimately, I think this is just a really fantastic first impression of NepCali's work with their track MAHAKALI, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and the YouTube page, as I think this is only available on YouTube at this point that I'm reviewing this. It might be available elsewhere later on. And stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.